Welcome back, Daywalkers. Yes, we have another Black History Month this year in it for us, and this time we actually brought a fellow man of African descent like myself, Digimon, sadly missing from the actual New York City-based 21 Bridges commentary, but hey, here for our Marvel superhero lineage, and, they may as well be synonymous with New York City. Here to tackle, of all things, Blade. Now,
Again.
yes, it's a Generations commentary, but it arguably is one that does fit the boundaries of Black History Month. And no, not just because the main character is black. Now, this is not the first black superhero movie we got, unlike, say, Meteor Man, Blank Man, or Steel. But,
Or about
but,
Spawn.
this movie... Oh yeah, Spawn, the movie that literally whitewashes a black character. But I digress. Blade is important for the Marvel film lineage. Yes, a lot of people may say, okay, Marvel movies were starting to, actually get their confidence because let me just tell you, Marvel movies had it even worse than DC movies way back in the earlier phases and whatnot. Some may think it was Spider-Man, some may think it was X-Men that really got things rolling. But no, before either of those two properties, there was Blade. So, how did New Line Cinema tackle Blade? Simple. They basically got Wesley Snipes, let him act like he was in the blaxploitation era while also having him pull off Devil May Cry moves and crack one-liners while looking like a cooler version of the Matrix. It's sweet and simple, and it boggles my mind that Marvel Studios of this day can't seem to get how to make Blade work. But hey, I guess there really is one Blade, and there's only ever gonna be one Blade.
Unfortunately, that's why
So,
Stephen Dorff
while
was the
we're
villain, but we'll get there too.
So, yeah, I guess we might as well cover this movie while that joke is still intact, essentially. So, start at the New Line Cinema Blood Red logo, and let's get to work. In 3, 2, 1, click.
No
So,
kidding.
Dej, I understand Tio has sort of prepped you for this.
Yeah, marathon all the movies.
Unfortunately.
My apologies regarding the third one.
Well, eventually I guess we'll have to get a generations of that too, but no kidding, if I remember correctly with the timing, this was the first major theatrical release of a movie based on a Marvel comic since the Howard the Duck, because everything else had been direct-to-TV stuff. No, wait, hold on. Did the Captain America 1990 movie have a theatrical release?
Yes, I believe that one did.
Then it's that case, in case. But again, up until this point, Marvel superheroes had way less time than DC. They were not. They were really having to catch up. So this was a first major case of the new era.
It is kind of ironic to think that the 90s to 2000s DC were the ones well ahead in the superhero film genre, essentially. Because nowadays you would think that's Marvel's position. Although DC seemed to be sneaking up on them since the DCU has been doing pretty good so far.
This is we start with a birth from someone. Also, Lives, would you mind reminding the audience who the director and instead the writer are?
The director is Stephen Norrington,
Yes.
who was mainly a effects guy who would go on to make League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Which promptly sunk whatever career he might have had. But what about the writer?
The writer is David Goyer, who will go on to have a very up and down relationship with comic books and comic book movies.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the thing about David S. Goyer is he was a comic book writer, so putting him in a superhero script, that makes sense. And I'd say that he can do pretty good, essentially, script-wise. That doesn't mean he has a spotless track record.
Okay, well, I think that's kind of funny. The word now, just a bit ago, is in the same font as the cast. So wait, is there an actor called Now?
I mean, look, we literally have a singer called Her, so maybe. Okay, so to clarify about the 1990 Captain America film, Tio, you're gonna love this. Yes, it was released theatrically internationally. It was released direct to video in the United States. So let me just point out, a Captain America movie was released theatrically everywhere except America.
It's almost like making a game based on the
Genius.
video game based on the life of Jeanne d'Arc and not releasing it in France. Oh wait.
And also, that thing only had a budget of $3 million, which in the 90s,
So
yeah,
of course,
cheap as hell.
we're talking about the Matrix. We start with what was in vogue in the late 90s, early 2000s, rave nightclub with flashing light.
Well, yeah, because this came out before the Matrix.
Yeah, remember what waves?
Basically,
even
this
the
was
movie
the
Hackers had it. This was again the vogue of the late 90s.
like the 90s tends to get attributed with a lot of hard rock and grunge music. In the 2000s, you see a lot more stuff like Eurobeat or electric sound thing. My guess is that the late 90s were basically the transition, hence sequences like this, essentially.
I will call it more growing pains or level of transition, but yeah. And yeah, unfortunately, these movies are riddled with these. With these. Not just for the nightclub scene, which is why unfortunately Shiroi cannot join us with these.
Alas.
Let me check again who the composer was. Mark Isham. Let me see. Movie-wise, let's see what I recognize. Oh wow, there's a lot that this guy composed of, still to this day. Oh, the Bill and Ted movies. Okay.
Sadly, I don't think Stan Lee cameos in this movie.
He was
does
supposed
he?
to actually have a cameo in a basically. Well, there's gonna be an action scene in this nightclub. Hi, Stephen Dorff. And a bunch of cops will arrive in the aftermath. Stan Lee was supposed to play one of them, but I guess he couldn't for different reasons.
I guess Blade is a real MCU movie because there's no Stan Lee cameo.
Actually, let me check what Earth is considered this on the Marvel database.
Wait a minute. This is one. Why is it dripping blood?
It's raining blood, hallelujah, or something like that.
Thank you. It's a bloodbath.
Literally.
Guess this is how vampires like
More
to
like a
party
blood
in the
shower
late
than anything.
90s. Yeah, dude, you came to the wrong party.
He was invited, clearly, possibly, maybe for being an extra snack. Alright, the Marvel database categorized this word as Earth 26320. And it encompasses the Trinity trilogy movies and the Blade series.
I love it. They don't even start with feeding him. It's like, let's scare him first just for giggles.
They're eating them, and then they're gonna eat me. Oh my god.
Ow.
Rude.
You just got bloodied. I don't know.
Let's tenderize the meat set. Oh.
And who's the one man who didn't get his coat dirty here? Jesus Christ, it's Jason Bourne!
Not quite.
Not yet, David. Okay, maybe if we sneak around him from behind, he won't see us.
I don't think that's how it works, Libs.
At least
What?
the innocent people are getting out, I guess.
Okay, I'm not gonna ask much about Wesley Snipes' private life because we already talked about that and some new stuff happened in between when we did the original movies or not. What I'm curious is what he was doing famously before this. Oh, he was in U.S. Marshals.
Wasn't he in that Sylvester Stallone movie?
Which one?
I know he was in the
Demolition Man, I believe.
Right. He plays Phoenix, the antagonist. It was also in the U.S. Marshals, the sequel to The Fugitive that we still have to do.
I love it. She thinks she's the tough one about to take him out.
There
Yeah,
you
the
go.
CGI hasn't aged
it's
particularly gracefully.
It's a late 90s new line cinema movie. It's basically, be glad that it's on these levels.
The Lord of the Rings came out only a few years after this.
Like, Lord of the Rings was like,
Again, the new line cinema is so inconsistent with its CGI. Sometimes it manages to get Lord of the Rings at decent levels, other times it's whatever the fuck happened with Spawn.
Also, pretty sure they didn't have much faith in this movie compared to one of the biggest fantasy books of all time.
Yeah, let me check. Budget 45 million, box office 131.2. So success, not super stellar, but successful enough. Let me check what was.
But yeah, Dej does have a point that. Dej does have a point that the powers that be didn't have the most faith in this movie.
I can't imagine for which
multiple
specific reasons.
Yeah, again, there will be a lot to say about Wesley Snipes when we get to Blade Trinity, but I will give him this one defense here in that I do get his paranoia in the sense that the game was kind of always rigged against him with each of these movies. Which is a shame because honestly, these movies do hold the credit for getting a lot of people to think, hey, maybe we should give these Marvel movies a chance. But yeah, no, Wesley Snipes is... okay, basically, Wesley Snipes' portrayal of Blade, the character, is incredibly influential to the point where it basically inspired not just the look for Blade in a lot of media and comics for quite some time, but more or less has gotten around, the overall style of Blade, essentially. Because if I recall correctly, while Blade was, typically about that, half vampire, half human sort of guy here, I think these movies were the ones that introduced the idea of him, being like this walking tower of cool, basically.
Definitely amped up the cool factor, but it's worth noting that Blade has always managed, it's a character that ever existed since the 70s, first introduced as adversaries, non-antagonist, but prospective adversaries from Dracula, the Marvel character, because for those who don't know, Dracula in the Marvel comics has a very long-standing run. So Blade was just introduced to be a villain from his perspective, similar to how Wolverine was introduced as a villain to the Hulk and then took off. Blade always managed to have the stuff about the gadgets, and the cool factor, but this changed it to a new level. Think of it something like, say, how when Frank Miller took over for Daredevil,
Instead of being based off a black exploitation film, he looked more like he was ripped from the Matrix.
Believe it or not, Blade actually used to be British and whatnot. That got retconned along with making him a damphyr, essentially. Did they keep that?
I don't remember that. He was
British Blade.
As the credits mentioned, thankfully, properly crediting, it was created in 1973 by Marv Wolfman, famous for working on the Teen Titans, and Gene Colan for the artistry.
He was originally actually a vampire immune human before they retconned him to be a damphyr, aka, half vampire, half human, a daywalker capable of going out in the light and all that.
This is the worst episode of Scrubs ever.
Man, the revival came out already? I know it was this month, but still.
Anyway, I'm checking. This movie was released around the same time as Halloween H2O.
Beautiful.
The Brian De Palma movie called Snake Eyes, the one with Nicolas Cage. Airbud Golden Receiver. Okay.
I have yet to see any of the Airbud sequels.
The Avengers, the one that we commented on based on the British TV series.
Oh, the one no one cares about, gotcha.
Yeah, basically. And Pocahontas.
I'm joking.
And Pocahontas 2, Journey to a New World. Or I think that was direct to video. So basically,
if it's any consolation,
this did not. Well, despite being summer release movie, late August, this did not add that much of a competition. It's probably one of the factors of why it grows that much money.
If it's any consolation, Dej, people don't really like the Avengers movie, especially, fans of the Avengers franchise. But hey, it had Ralph Fiennes in it. How could it fail?
Well, it's definitely over now.
Yeah, it's funny I mentioned Scraps considering one of the jokes was that JD wanted to launch a show that was called Dr. Acula.
Yes. Blade. You can rush to help, you don't need to aura farm.
Yeah.
He's too cool, Alright, I think in a second we're about to get actually possibly one of the best lines of the entire movie.
Oh crap! He doesn't go down when we shoot him!
Ow.
This hospital is not having a good day.
No, wait, hold on. Something that doesn't sit right with me. The hospital was admitting a patient out when, no, they're supposed to bring it in.
I don't know that.
I think it was because
maybe it's just being transferred to a better hospital. I don't know.
Okay.
Oh yeah, one that can revive the dead. Or maybe they were about to ship him out to basically the morgue.
Our doctor here, that's about to be rescued by Blade, is Dr. Karen Jensen, which is played by Embouche Wright, which I checked before we did the movie, this commentary, and while she's still starring a couple of movies after this, she did not add too much of an extensive career. I guess she just retired in the mid-2000s and only did one role for a small movie in 2018. That's pretty much it.
It would have been funny if Blade had missed throwing her on that tarpaulin.
You missed. How could you miss?
And she ended up falling to the pavement below.
It was 3 feet in front of you.
It moved.
Ow.
There, now it's back in place.
Don't try this at home, kids.
Also,
while dislocated articulations are possible to be fixed that way, just leave it to a professional, please.
Also, lady, given the way he threw you, I would take it as a blessing to only have a dislocated shoulder. Also, kudos to Blade. He took off his sunglasses when he went out into the night.
Behold the city. What is this shot?
Moronic. Yeah, is that a day to night shot?
No, actually, I don't think so. But
or did we just slap a blue filter?
Yeah, the teal filter. I guess what the shots were trying to convey was the perspective of the doctor, which is seeing the roof of the car, and she sees the building passing by. It was still weird.
New York City in a Marvel superhero movie where nothing goes wrong whatsoever.
Are we sure it's New York? Let me see.
Man, I tend to default to New York for a lot of these when they don't specify the location.
I don't
but
think
it
they
might
mentioned,
be
so
a
it
different
could be not. Where they actually filmed it, most of it was filmed in Los
Mm.
Angeles, so it could be that, I guess.
Apparently, originally when New World Pictures bought the rights to Marvel Comics, they were set to make a Mexico set western, actually starring Richard Roundtree as the vampire hunter. Go
Alright,
figure.
while he doesn't have a bad cable source, Blade still has a safe haven, this dismissed train station, and also a helper, mentor of sorts, played by the late, unfortunately, Chris Christopherson.
Mm-hmm. Were New Line Cinema owned by New World Pictures at the time? Because New World Pictures were apparently the ones who bought the rights to Marvel
I
Comics
don't know
around the
about
day.
that. I know that they still had their contract with Warner Bros., even if they were not owned entirely by them. So maybe it was a conjoint
Basically, like many
production.
movies.
Maybe it's similar to what happened
Yeah,
with
like
the
many.
Fantastic Four movies, where Constantine Films were partially responsible for having to the cancelled Roger Corman movie, but because they were involved later on, they defaulted to 20th Century Fox.
Yeah, like many movies, this has a bit of an interesting history since it started with New World Pictures buying the rights to Marvel Comics. Originally, this was going to be set in Mexico, like a Western starring Richard Roundtree, another prolific black actor at the time. And eventually, Marvel Studios wanted to develop a film in early 1992 where rapper LL Cool J was supposed to play the lead role,
Oh,
essentially, before
no.
eventually the film went.
I.
Yes,
Oof.
we almost had a timeline where LL Cool J was Blade.
Between that and the Coolio
Is that
cameo
better
in
or worse
Batman and
given what
Robin,
happened
I
with
don't
Wesley
know.
Snipes?
Did you know that the studios did try to push for Blade to be white, but
Yes.
our good old friend
That
David S. Goyer had to fight for it. It's like, no.
Here's instead
it's
the
like
late
this.
Udo
I
Kier
think
as the leader of the ominous Vampire Council of Vagueness.
But yeah, no, like I've said before, David Goyer is someone I have faith in. He hasn't always done the best job, but from what I've been able to research, a lot of those cases with messes have been kind of, stuff that escaped his control and all that. And I will say this, thank God he set the record straight that they should not make Blade white, essentially.
Alright, Stephen Dorff plays the character of Deacon Frost. I think we did mention in the original commentary, but unfortunately, his character is not particularly comic fitting to how he looked in the comics. In the comics, he's this imposing old figure that is a genuine menace that started also appearing in the Tomb of Dracula comic and became semi-regular, rival towards Blade potentially. Here instead is Stephen Dorff being a cocky little shit that wants to usurp the power of the Vampire Council for himself because they want to make a parallel to Mafia. Children of mafia bosses, they want to take over the power, but they have, no honor and respect and stuff. The Godfather, you've seen it in The Godfather, just to make an example. And it's an interesting plot, but much like we did what we said about Whitney Frost in the Agent Carter series, it makes the character to be name only. But then again, as it was custom of this time for a long time in superhero films, it was deemed the idea that if it's too comic book accurate, it's too lame, and icky. Don't have that, that's not what the fans want.
It's weird that we still have this problem to this day. I know that there are some things that you have to streamline, like, let's say if we made a new Fantastic Four movie with Doctor Doom, you can't really explain everything because that's a bit too much immediately. So that's like you have to streamline his him and Rita went to college and then a science experiment happened.
Oh, see, we were all born vampires, but you were merely turned. You're a lot faker. Yeah, in this case, Deacon Frost has to, shall we say, prove himself
Okay.
because, ew, you were only turned.
Okay, now I can say this instead. This is the worst Vampire the Masquerade session ever. Like,
Yeah. I think someone set their stats wrong.
what would I give to have some Malkavians run in and say some completely non sequitur stupid shit?
But if I've woken up, then I'm not extinct. We're just endangered, aren't we?
Okay, this has kind of often been a big flaw with vampires, and to be fair, that's kind of a point. Vampires can get a little too cocky, to the point where they're sometimes even racist against their own kind because, oh, you're not a pure, super duper original vampire. When ironically, that leads them to stagnate and in some ways get overrun by humans who they constantly
Again, the
underestimate.
World of Darkness setting actually manages to have this work better with the idea that with each generation of siring, the vampires that get produced become less powerful. So let's say a third generation vampire would be far stronger than a fifth generation vampire. You know, that just makes sense because it's the case of the power getting diluted. Consequently, if an older generation vampire gets discovered, a lot of new generation vampire would shit their pants because that would mean there will be an alpha predator amongst them, you know. Again, yeah, just play Vampire the Masquerade, even at tabletop, or even Bloodlines, the original, not the sequel, please.
What about the sequel?
I just said that.
What about the sequel?
Okay, like, wait, did that sequel ever come out?
Yes, and I appreciate some stuff of it they tried to do, but it doesn't live up to the original, I'm sorry. The original also has its share of problems, but at its core, it's still a fun experience to play.
So thankfully, it seems that the Doctor has been saved from being turned into a vampire. But where is she?
Don't touch that.
To be fair, Dweebs,
Yeah, imagine she tries to.
No one knows yet. Yep, there you go. That happens. It's a neat fail-safe.
Hello, Whistler.
Rah, 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 rah. Yeah, basically the character Whistler is just there to be grumpy cowboy, with a rugged beard and haircut to say, Blade, you shouldn't be doing this, rah, 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 rah.
God forbid he was who they were going to have play Blade if they had had their way with making him white.
He also has a tutor for his right leg.
Wasn't it David Goyer we have to thank for him staying black in the first place?
Yeah.
Yes,
that you mentioned before.
It's like I said, look, David Goyer wears his comic book writer side on his sleeve, and I appreciate him for that. Like I said, I honestly feel we've gotten more hits than misses from him in writing his films and whatnot. Fun fact, actually, at some point David Fincher was attached to the project and was even working on a script with Goyer. I think part of that script may have made its way into the final draft as well.
It's also interestingly enough, for those who don't know, the character Whistler does not really have a comic book counterpart. Originally, he was created for the 1990s X-Men and Spider-Man cartoons as a small supporting role for a couple of local episodes, and he was tied to the character of Morbius. So instead, they brought him here, and surprisingly enough, he hasn't really made too much of a jump into the comics. He's closely related to an actual 616 character called Jamal Afari, but I don't know about the details to that.
Like, wasn't there like some legal situation with him?
I don't know about that.
Would not surprise me.
With this character because he appeared in Spider-Man the animated series.
It's
So, and then it was like, no, that's technically a character from the Blade movie, so no, you can't do that.
possibly
Yeah.
that. I know that apparently, that I did not know about this, but apparently, according to an interview with the Hollywood Reporter, the director himself, Stephen Norrington, was supposed to actually make a cameo in this movie as Morbius. And remember, this was 1988, so before the first Sam Raimi movie, Spider-Man movie, meaning that there was a chance that Sony might have not got the Spider-Man movie rights.
That's actually a good
Yeah, because they
segue.
didn't want to do Morbius for the sequel. It's like, yeah, that makes sense.
If I recall correctly, we even have a deleted scene with Morbius at
Like
some
I said,
point. Like he's
played by the
technically not mentioned.
director.
But yeah, that's actually a good segue here. As you may have noticed, that Whistler was helping out Blade with, let's say, his condition. One concept Goyer came up with this actually was the idea of treating vampirism like a biological disease. And Morbius was apparently going to come on board at some point as a doctor vampire who could maybe help cure Blade of said disease, essentially.
Again, it cannot be stated just how much fucking damage the Morbius movie did, because again, one thing that needs to be remembered is that a lot of moviegoers really need to have those to be done to be their introduction to the characters, and there is a chance that they still might not read the comic. So if the movie in question is shit or the portrayal of the character is almost completely different, it's basically a gigantic ruinous stuff towards the character. Thankfully, Morbius had already appeared in stuff like the Spider-Man cartoon, even if they had changed him to him wanting plasma, if I recall correctly. But they were still more close in that form. So a lot of people did a field of reference for him, but if it was just for the movie, you would not have any idea just how much instead dignity the character does have in the comics.
See,
Yeah, I
Morbius
know.
got.
I'm
Morbius
gonna be
got.
honest. I don't
Yes.
think he should be a Spider-Man character. He should be more tied to Blade or Midnight Suns.
That's basically what they did. They basically slowly but steadily associated more to the Sons of Midnight.
He's one of the Spider-Man villains who goes into the biological yet crazy science
Like the
stuff and whatnot.
lizard.
Since a lot of, yeah, basically, I forget if it's exactly like the show, but basically he messed up with some science with bats and whatnot. I forget if they were radioactive at the time. They may have been to compare him to Spider-Man and whatnot, but basically he kind of accidentally turned himself into a scientific vampire. I emphasize scientific because there's a difference. I emphasize it's scientific because remember, there are actually real-life mythological vampires.
Yeah.
Spider-Man's even had to work with Dracula as well, too.
Like I said,
Dracula's kind of weird in Marvel. Sometimes he'll be a good guy, sometimes he'll be a bad guy, sometimes he's legit just doing his own thing.
Like I said, that's because Dracula being a public domain character meant that he's a very long-standing character in the Marvel comics, thanks to the Tomb of Dracula comic, which has been very popular since its inception. Meaning that the character does have a prominent history in the Marvel universe. You have to thank his son, Xarius, for the period of time where Jubilee was turned into a vampire herself. That was awful.
That lasted, I think, for like 10 years in real time, if I recall correctly.
Close enough, yeah. It took up until, I forgot which specific event, I believe when Quentin Inquire used the Phoenix Force to restore her. Yes,
have we mentioned a story between Snipes and Dorf?
No, not yet.
Snipes and Dorf, they mentioned it on the DVD commentary. Dorf's first day on the job is trying to establish everything about Frost. Snipes got impatient and tried to counsel him, with Dorf becoming frustrated because there were a bunch of famous people visiting. So Snipes had to use his authority as producer and make decisions. and to convince Dorf to trust in him, and well, wasn't a whole lot of it going around at that point.
I'm guessing hopefully it got better, since from what I understand, Dorf doesn't seem to have much bad to say about Snipes these days.
You have to remember,
True.
this is around, not immediately, but around the same period where Dorf appeared in movies like Alone in the Dark. The guy genuinely just wanted to have a career and was kind of a bit of a shithead as a result.
Did his career ever stabilize, or is it
Yes,
still as much a roller coaster now as it was
Okay,
back
technically yes, but only because he found secure stability in B/C tier movies. But he is still appearing on a regular case in movies being done today. Again, just not famous ones or ones that are A tier at the very least. Again, it's a way to actually bring money to the table, even if it's unfortunately not maybe the career that he actually wanted.
I mean, that's
one thing that isn't.
It's more than who's the person who played Tifa Lockhart in Advent Children?
Rachel Lake Cook.
Yeah, Rachel Lake Cook, who was a rising star, and then that Buffy the Vampire Slayer movie basically her career. I mean, not just in the
It was supposed to be covert. You're driving on the pavement.
I mean, to be fair, if it's New York, that may not be too out of place, especially in the 90s.
We're in Citiesville.
You mean the town of Citiesville from Powerpuff Girls?
Yes. Also, that was a weird angle.
That sounds like its neighboring. That sounds like its neighboring rival town.
If you remember, they mentioned those tattoos are for the people who work for vampires, even if they're not being sired themselves. I
forget. She has the scent, right?
Don't remember.
Like they can still sniff her out because she was turned.
Oh right, yeah.
She wasn't turned. They were able to save her from being turned, but she was bitten, so she's kind of borderline. Wow, an even more awkward ride than the one in Spider-Man 2. Excuse me, but do you have time to hear the good news of our Lord and Savior Dracula?
No, remember, Jova, by the time of the third movie, it's just called Drake.
Of the 99 Dragons. Because get it, Dracula was getting with modern times, yo.
Now, to be fair, it's still
played by the guy who plays Heatwave in Legends of Tomorrow.
Now, to be fair, again, it's still tied to what the name actually means. Son of the Dragon, Dracul. It's just that it's a poor attempt to modernize the character.
Now, as for how the Blade trilogy treats vampires, you'll notice that they give the vampires a somewhat human side to them, ironically enough. This is due to the fact that Goyer wanted to kind of, take the Blade relatively serious as a character. Not in the sense that, it can't be like the comics, but sort of like a bit of a different take and whatnot. In doing so, he also wanted to demystify the vampires and, treat them as serious villains with a greater sense of realism instead of, just being your typical doomed romantic character.
A police officer would not do that. It's like, your front door is open, so I came and said, no, that's not how it works.
That's still...
Maybe.
Still entering about...
They have to call, leave a message. You're not allowed to go inside a house without a permit.
Perhaps that's a sign that something's up.
Well,
yeah, there we go.
There you go. That's one of the things that Whistler gave her.
In daylight?
But remember, he's not technically a vampire.
He gave an answer to the question.
Yeah, familiar, that's what they're called.
To be fair, some familiars I understand are kind of semi-mind controlled in the sense where once they have the mark, they're kind of compelled to do stuff anyway.
You know, you don't need to destroy the entire house. Yeah, you don't need to destroy the entire house.
Douchebag.
This is Man of Steel level of collateral damage.
Yeah, but damn, you gotta admit I look cool doing it.
I guess.
I swear, Blade is like 50% aura farming throughout this movie. There are some ways he could totally handle with more finesse, but damn it, they wouldn't look as cool. I mean, he is saving your life, to be fair.
He was about to kill you, so...
This is fake.
I know, that is really funny that they're doing this to a cop in public.
Okay, knowing what we know
Also,
will happen in
well,
Blade Trinity, that's just weird.
Sir, there's a guy bashing a cop's face in on the boots.
With a katana? I know it's New York and a lot of people just
It's a
walk
gun,
by
huh?
stuff and let it...
Oh!
Yeah, well, Blade definitely doesn't, has still a code of honor and tries to do things in secrecy, and doesn't actually try to harm civilians. He's kind of like the Punisher, in a sense, where he tries to get his work having top priority.
To be fair, this guy still has like 90% more restraint than almost any version of the Punisher. It's just that, okay, while he
Yeah,
does
if anything,
like to
he's just a
maintain
more
secrecy-
incompetent Batman.
God damn it, I hate you're right about that.
Has anyone actually played the tie-in video game on the PlayStation?
I haven't.
No.
Java?
Have you?
I never got around to that.
Me
but I
neither,
have
that's
been
why I
meaning
asked.
to. Have you?
No, it was published apparently by Activision, so I don't know actually how it is. I guess it's a simple concept to make hack and slash with some gun element. Remember, this was before Devil May Cry was released. But to be fair, Nightmare Creatures was, I think, a thing, at this point. So...
Also, it's funny, a vampire's doing a stakeout.
Hilarious.
So, anyway, as for Wesley Snipes' involvement in this movie, believe it or not, this movie involves him because, get this, he had recently failed to get a Black Panther film into production, essentially. So yes, there was a timeline where Wesley Snipes would have been Black Panther instead of Chadwick Boseman.
Yes.
Wrap your head around that. Which is funny because he would later get to put on an African accent for Coming to America, the sequel. But yeah, no, when he failed to get Black Panther into production, he signed on to star as Blade, essentially, since he was producing this through his company, Amen Ra Films, and worked with the writers to invest the story with elements of classic tragedy like Lear and like Hamlet to heighten the character's emotional drama. Said emotional drama,
I'm
including
genuinely surprised that Ryan Coogler didn't try casting him in Sinners.
That actually would have been cool now that you mention it. I wonder if he was busy with something at the time.
Or, people realized that maybe casting someone like him around this time might have been a bit of a bad idea. Again, there's more than just the tax evasion to, Snipes scene count.
Oh yeah, because so when that movie was first revealed and we saw the twins, people was like, one of them was supposed to be Michael B. Jordan. Not one of them was supposed to be God, I forgot the guy who played Kang.
Oh yeah, I get what you mean.
Oh, Jonathan Banks.
Majors because they did Creed 3 together and Michael and Jonathan wanted to do more collabs.
Rude.
Oh.
So yeah, in this universe, crosses don't do anything, and neither does
Garlic.
Garlic. Well, on its own.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, garlic works as a repellent, but it won't necessarily kill a vampire.
And I think it was
apparently.
holy water they said doesn't work.
Right. Basically anything that considered religious.
That's why the water was laced with garlic, apparently, that she sprayed that
I
cop
got
with.
confused.
About how that Netflix Castlevania show has it has holy water as an actual thing to kill vampires and demonic creatures, but for some reason they say that the cross isn't because of it being religious, but because of how vampires are advanced predators of humans. So the crosses just messes with their eyesight and drives them insane. It's like, we didn't need that.
Again,
no.
The franchise had the cross as a sub-weapon pretty much since the beginning, which acts more as a throwable object more than anything. You did not need to overcomplicate things. Okay, let me check who gets to play these punching bag of a cop.
You said the freezer.
Well, are you going to clean this mess up? Seriously, that looked like she was about to scold him for making a mess.
Kevin Patrick was. Let me see what else he has done.
I really do get the feeling that they weren't sure if if Karen Jensen, Nivish Wright's character, was going to come back or whatnot, because it seems like they're hinting at like haters to lovers sort of romance between these two and how much they bicker, but yeah, she never came back for any of the sequels, weirdly enough.
Oh wait, was he... I think he was Steve in the first Scream.
Oh, interesting.
Robert Ducks?
Oh, Rubber Ducky,
Rubber
you're the one.
Man, vampires
Well, you
really
know,
have
every
weird
vampire...
parties.
But hey, it's good to see that vampires are nice and progressive with the amount of women we've seen kissing each other among their ranks.
But yeah, Deacon Frost is obsessed in deciphering this stone tablet.
If only translating was that simple in real life.
So just ask Grok,
Oh, well,
it will give you an instant, very accurate, translation.
Okay, to
Also,
their credit, they
he's
do...
a villain, but he's using an Apple computer.
Also, he has an electronic coffin. The Fiend.
Was this when did Apple start that policy of villains can't use that can't have you be using their tech on screen?
I think in the late 2010s.
I think it was those 2020s.
Let's ask.
Yeah, because I think Ryan Johnson was the one that's basically told. Yeah, they said we can't do that anymore.
Jesus Christ!
I'll ask the internet. It was highlighted around February 2020, but there are some reports that suggested it existed as far back as 2002.
Yeah, I can believe it.
Okay, if it did, I may not have been as aware
Maybe
of that.
It wasn't
I definitely
enforced as much.
Wait, hold on. Were they just watching Spawn on that TV?
Possible. That was 1 year before. It wasn't the only cinema product.
Oh lord, these hairdos. I so miss the late 90s.
Yeah, here's Copper Boy out of a movie.
No, don't worry. I'm sure he's just turning you.
Ew.
Never mind, you're just fuel for his fetish.
Yummers. Paul.
Ew, that's gonna contaminate the water.
And the rubber ducks. Alright, let me check instead who the guy, this guy that has survived being shot and exposed
Burned.
exposed to flame.
Yeah, you heard what I said. I want him alive. You deaf?
No. Although my ears might be taking a while to regrow after being destroyed.
Oh, hello.
Played by Eric Edwards. Live stream calls back in the 90s.
The future.
You know, you're a vampire. They're supposed to usually have good metabolism. How are you so lazy as a vampire that you get, well, like that?
Honestly, I do wonder if they just wanted to create the character of Mojo and couldn't. Because basically, again, there's one of the semi-recurring X-Men villains, well, villains in quotation is more of a bumbling idiot. He's kind of like that. This overweight
I was thinking of that
blob
one.
that focuses around looking at monitors because he hosts
That's even
a entire dimension that is about filming stuff.
Recently, it was in X-Men 97 when Jubilee was trapped in the video game.
Mm-hmm.
Pearl does have a similar hairdo to Mojo as well, so yeah, maybe it was somebody going, hey guys, let's put Mojo in, since, if I recall correctly, a lot of the lesser-known X-Men characters were more fair game to go across film stuff. Like, I think when it comes to film rights, obviously you focus first and foremost on main characters, but I feel like extremely minor, like I'm talking D or C-list characters, tend to be somewhat up in the air.
More like the more silly ones, because remember X-Men Origins Wolverine did have a couple of obscure characters, like Dominic Monaghan character. It's just that the X-Men movies wanted to be super serious and eschewed the more silly parts of the franchise, like the space stuff.
Except Toad.
Yeah.
But you know that
Tell
meme
me.
of the frying baby getting hit with a lot. That's what I'm being reminded of.
It was essential that we blow apart that wall to proceed.
Yes.
But get this, it seems that vampires are now doing research. Like I was saying earlier, to the movie's credit, the elder vampires do say that Frost has been at it for a long time trying to get that translation. Like apparently he's only recently finally finished the translation. Apparently he's trying to get a ritual going. It felt like a jump cut sneaking up
this
on
editing.
us.
Let me use this time to check who the editor of this was. Paul Rubel. Well, I heard him already. Did we check on him already?
That does sound
goody.
familiar.
Co-edited the Dr. Bureau 2 years before this.
God! Now,
he also edited the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen and the Peter Pan movie that came out in 2003. And to be fair, Peter Pan did not have really that much of a bad editing, but I sure remember the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen having it. So
He also edited for Avengers in 2012 and Battleship
He's
2.
still getting work to this day. The most recent stuff that he's gonna he's gonna edit on is the Masters of the Universe movie, the one with Jared Leto as Skeletor.
You know, the sad thing is it's a good looking design for Jared Leto. I mean, no, it's a good design for Skeletor, but just Jared Leto, why? Why do we have
Or
to
you
put
see,
the cult leader
the
in?
director recently said that Jared Leto playing Skeletor represents toxic masculinity.
Please
whatever
tell
you
me
say,
that was
buddy.
not actually his excuse. Translation: Jared Leto was footing the bill like he did with Tron Ares, basically.
Not to mention, oh, it would be so cool, but when you actually remember that, money is involved in this project,
Yeah.
There you go, that's what happens when you touch stuff and it's not yours. Okay, remember again what this character's name is? I need to still find this actor.
Quinn.
Thank you.
Needless to say, he is pretty pissed at Blade for burning him alive.
Donald
I'm
Logue.
surprised Blade didn't say that tickles.
Oh, goody. This guy was in the Free Ninja sequel, the Free Ninjas Knuckle Up.
Not the one with Hulk Hogan in it?
I think so.
I think that's the third one.
The one with Hulk Hogan's the one at the theme park, if I recall correctly. I think that's the fourth one.
They made 4?
Yeah, I think.
I don't get it, but Free Ninjas was very popular, I guess, at the time.
No, I mean, I get it.
Shoulder wound, that's gonna leave a mark.
After this, he was in stuff like The Patriot, the first Ghost Rider movie. Oh god, the Max Payne 2008 movie. The 2012 Silent Night movie, which is basically evil Santa kills people. Classic. Oh, it was Brian Irons in Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City. I forgot that it was him. And he was also in a lot of TV stuff.
Hey, time to let the old man be cool. Yeah, that's the thing. Vampires are not immune to bullets.
Little known facts.
Yeah. To Quinn's credit, he does try to prioritize getting Blade. But alas, to no avail. Anyway, as for why some of this editing may be a bit slapdash, apparently this movie was heavily reshot and edited because the first cut was 140 minutes, but apparently it had a disastrous test screening with audiences.
Yeah, particularly about the climax. I think we did talk when we did the original commentary. Basically, again, you'll be able to see eventually, but in the climax, Deacon Frost was supposed to turn into a CGI monstrosity, but surprise, even 1 year after, Spawn, it turns out New Line Cinema still could not do that much in terms of good CGI, so that was part of the reason why they had to reshot the climax.
And they basically
that train was so unrealistic because it's like that one was way too long for a train.
Yeah.
Yes, maybe it's a new super train. But yeah, no.
In 1998.
Hey, you never know. Remember, Dedge, one big thing that everyone knows from movies is that New York City has a super secret network of tunnels that's basically a whole new world under there, essentially. So maybe they were making a super train in addition in secret. Okay, but yeah, no, including stuff that got cut from the film, like we mentioned, Stanley originally did have a cameo, but for some reason
yeah, like I said.
I'm not sure why that got cut from it. Shame, though, because, then I believe Bissum would have officially been the start of that trend.
Hey, look, it's Spider-Man 2 a lot of years earlier.
3.
Wait, don't you mean 3?
3, my bad.
Because the one with this train fight.
Sandman. You know, I do wonder.
Anyway.
I do wonder who popularized the whole smash someone's face on a moving subway train.
Whee!
Yeah, the inertia just doesn't exist. Don't worry, guys. Physics is just a suggestion.
What's wrong, vampires? Can't keep up with a train.
That's a skill issue.
That said, yeah, he was stabbed in the shoulder, so... Oh yeah, and also time for relocating of a
Hi, I'm a nurse,
shoulder.
remember that?
Or
doctor, but yeah. She's a... Let's see.
And also, he needs the dose. Remember, he needs to take it regularly, otherwise he will fall to his instincts.
Yeah, she's a hermatologist.
Oh, that's good, MacGuffin.
Also, interestingly enough, there is a subplot where she's also looking to get a cure, since while she has not turned into a vampire,
it's not a
she
permanent
still
solution,
has...
yeah.
Yeah.
And
that
fade
was
to black.
fun.
Okay then, that was the commercial break, I guess.
So yeah, in this case, Whistler was actually the one who sort of told him the tools of a trade. Basically, Blade's mother had been attacked by a vampire at the time while she was pregnant with him. He managed to save her. Well, she managed to have him, but as you can imagine, she didn't survive.
Thankfully, unlike in Twilight, the result, damphyr did not, tear her womb open or some shit like that, nor did, there were stupid imprint stuff. So instead, the Blade was properly raised as a vampire hunter.
Interesting, because based off of Underworld, apparently the offspring of a werewolf and a vampire is like the ultimate thing that scares everyone.
Yeah, just like how, the heir to a human Earthling and a Saiyan is apparently 1.5 stronger than a pure-blood Saiyan or some shit like that.
A Super Saiyan, according to Nappa.
And then Super was like,
Which is funny because when you think about it, by that logistics, Pan should have been amazing with her power levels, but
I don't think she could fly as a baby.
True, but we never see her go Super Saiyan in GT now, do we?
Like, how old is she supposed to be by GT?
Despite the way she dresses.
Besides, like you said, it's a rule that the Dragon Ball forgets very conveniently. Go on, sorry.
Stake my life. Get it? Because it involves vampires.
Silerio, shut up.
You know, for as much as we snark about it, I do like how this movie is not afraid to be corny at times. Like, I imagine at some point Suits wanted this to be super serious, but nah,
it really is a transitional period between the campiness of the late 90s and the aggressively edgy phase of the early to mid 2000s.
That is true, unfortunately. And don't get me wrong, I like the X-Men films, the originals as well, but the original X-Men films were notorious for having that problem of taking themselves so seriously that, if I recall correctly, weren't comic books even apparently outlawed on the set at some point?
Don't remember the details, but I seem to remember something like that.
But yes, there is a little bit of angst that Blade does have with his issues and whatnot. So yes, just like many a Castlevania story, he's also hunting down the vampire who killed his mother. Shooter, actually, if I recall correctly, that's literally Sonya Belmont's thing.
Well, remember, her story is not canon anyway.
Even though they brought her back for Vampire Survivors.
Well, that's more like
yeah.
Easter egg than anything. Remember, Vampire Survivors just has almost every single minute piece of stuff from the Castlevania games, except the Lords of Shadow trilogy.
I do feel a bit sorry for Sonia Belmont. I thought she was a cool Belmont, and hey, she was originally going to be the start of the timeline for the Belmonts. I get why eventually they replaced her with Leon Belmont.
And to be honest, Lament of Innocence I think works much better as a starting point for things.
I do kind of wish they could have maybe have just put her game somewhere else in the timeline, though. Again, I do get it. Story-wise, it had some issues, especially with the implications that Alucard was actually Trevor's father. Good lord.
You know, if this film went for that action comedy route it was going to be originally, I think Frost would have been making puns about his hand being cut off.
Wait,
He'd
there was
probably
a point
be like,
where this...
yeah.
There was a point where this movie was going to be straight up action comedy. Okay, that cut I've not heard.
Remember,
as much about.
still late 90s. These were the years of Steel, Batman and Robin, and so on.
It's like he'd probably be saying stuff like, "Come on, man, you got to give me a hand."
Alright, so
He's
now
like,
that Deacon Frost and his posse have finally deciphered the stone tablets and everything, we're here to just enjoy the rising sun with a special guest. Udo Kier, no!
What a beautiful view.
Dusty!
You know, one thing I do notice with a lot of Marvel movies in the 90s to early 2000s was a lot of them really like to have a scene where the main villain pretty much had it out for like this other official. You had this, Norman Osborn, obviously, and Doctor Doom, even in the 2004 Fantastic film. Wow. Bitter and old-fashioned to the end.
Just one final touch before the... yeah. Just a little, dentistry work.
He takes literally the fangs that define him as a vampire. So he won't even have the most recognizable trait of vampires, basically,
if I
when he
recall correctly,
dies.
also Frost wants to have them as proof.
And yes, these modern... gotta give the modern vampires some credit, though. They do actually get creative with some ways to actually be out in the sun, basically.
Yeah, these special effects are still prime cheese of the end of 90s New Line cinema.
Yeah.
Also, I love it. He holds hands with his lover while they watch a man burn alive. Truly, this is...
How romantic.
There you go. So that's how he became leader of the council. Tough luck, bitches.
What have you done with Dragonetti?
I guess you can say hell has frozen over.
What have you... No, they got a better pun for about what just happened earlier. What have you done with Dragonetti? You had to look on the bright side of life. Boo. I mean, that's probably what those jokes would have been if they went the comedy route.
You know, that's kind of the thing, like Tim mentioned, there was kind of this transition from films that were willing to have some fun to stuff that took itself way too seriously. So the ironic thing is, Blade Trinity feels like it wants to be taken the most seriously
Yeah.
out of these three movies. Yet, ironically,
And then it had
comes off
Ryan
as,
Reynolds in it. So I'm sorry, you can't do both.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, ironically, it comes off as arguably the goofiest of them. Like, you have Ryan Reynolds and Patton Oswalt in your movie. Please. Also, a movie where a blonde woman's supposed to be security. How do you expect us to not take that like a joke? And it's not even a case where she's like Daredevil and, has this amazing sense. No, she's literally just a blind woman in security.
That was my fourth microscope, you piece of shit.
Blade, I needed that! Oh, true. Yeah, that's one thing. As the movie progresses, you do see how the more frustrated she gets, the more she's kind of understanding of why Blade's so violent with vampires, because, vampires have kind of been pricks to them.
You could say vampires suck.
Yes, I'm sure we'll tackle that movie eventually, too.
I'm guessing that movie's not good, is it?
I honestly don't remember anything of it.
Let me put it like this. It was a movie that was supposed to make fun of Twilight. It should have been a slam dunk. Somehow they failed. Like, I remember one of the main critical consensuses about Vampires Suck was this movie sucks more. Speaking of reception,
it's also wait, hold on. I completely forgot about the plot point that he has cancer, considering the sequels.
Yeah, the sequels forget about that, so don't worry about it. Go on.
Oops. But yeah, no, interestingly enough, while this movie is definitely regarded positively amongst fans, apparently amongst critics, it got an approval rating of 59% on Rotten Tomatoes, based off of 114 reviews.
So not a lot, so.
Besides critic consensus being, though some may find the plot a bit lacking, Blade's action is fierce, plentiful, and appropriately stylish for a comic book adaptation, which, I mean, that sounds positive, but the fact that apparently the reaction was so mixed does make me wonder if this is a case similar to Godzilla Kingdom of Monsters, where critics don't get the source material.
Most
in a
likely.
sense. Again, I do get it. Critics, in a sense, are supposed to give, moviegoers a sense of if a movie's good or bad. So, not every case is the same. But I do notice that a lot of what holds back adaptations is a lot of people trying to please critics who, I get the feeling, wouldn't even like the source material with how they react. Yes, the problem with Godzilla was absolutely that we focused too much on the monsters. What do you mean we're not focusing on the humans in a Transformers movie? This Joker movie is asking some seriously deep questions.
What are you doing in sunlight?
Remember, he uses the sun cream and all. Still,
yes.
This scene is still stupid.
I feel like if anything, they should have had him in like the motorcycle gear and helmet from before. I feel like that at least works better than just saying, I put on sunblock.
I do wonder if originally they wanted to make this a day-to-night shot, but in post they decided, fuck it, let's just leave it at light. Nobody will.
And also, it's like, in a public area, you're telling me that people aren't going to look suspicious that this guy is holding a child like that?
Okay, Dad, you're the New York. Dad and Java, you're the New Yorkers. How much different it is from the average day in Central Park?
Central. I don't go to Central Park.
Yeah, I think that answers my question.
Especially not at night.
Go on.
Also, I just want to point out the whole vampires putting on sunblock to not burn up. That's a joke from Scooby-Doo, of all things, where Dracula uses sunblock, and that's why he can go out in the daylight in Scooby-Doo and the Curse of the Werewolf. So, that said, I'm willing to give this movie some benefit of the doubt that at least for this one, they weren't trying to be all super serious and whatnot. Which, honestly, again, you're a comic book adaptation. That's probably a good aspect to have, essentially.
I love how subtle it was, but
made you look.
Blade just called him a drama queen.
Join us.
And together we can rule humanity.
Don't you understand, Blade? You and I are not so different.
Yeah, sure. Whatever you say, Steven.
I know you are, but what am I?
I love it. It reminds me this exchange reminds me so much of a 2016 Splatterhouse reboot because it tries to be this very dark story about this guy, the villain, who tried for centuries or millennia to like resurrect an eldritch god, if I recall correctly, to either achieve immortality or to resurrect his dead love. I forgot the details. But then the main protagonist, who's trying to rescue his girlfriend from this bad guy, goes around, hears his entire backstory, super dramatic, says to him,
CGI bullets.
Says to him, fuck you, and the villain says, no, Rick, fuck you.
Jesus.
Don't worry, I'm sure the little girl's okay.
I also love that Blade's gun is not even a traditional one, it's one with some full auto. It's like a Mach 11.
Look, when going up against vampires, you take everything from 0 to 11. Also, good to see you got no broken bones on you, little girl. Like, seriously, given that she was thrown through glass onto the street, she is moving a lot better than I would expect a kid to be. Then again, she is in New York, so...
She's a child. She'll heal fast. Blade, probably.
Let me guess, she's a mutant.
Probably. Again, no, it's worth noting that for this particular continuity, there are some Marvel characters that are considered in-universe fictional, so it's just strictly about the Blade characters that appear here.
So given that this movie is technically owned by Warner Brothers, how did they get this version of Blade to get to show up in Deadpool
Paying royalties,
and Wolverine?
That's pretty much it. Again, we take for granted that Disney and Warner Bros. Are completely at each other's throats and don't want to even talk to each other, but there are a lot of deals that happen behind the scenes that we don't even know about, where just because money is involved, they're actually more okay with.
Actually, it seems like Disney and Warner Brothers are finally making nice with each other. Shoot, we're finally back to the days where we can have Marvel and DC crossovers with them.
This is a running thing. Blade's HQ getting attacked, believe it or not, because it happens once in every goddamn movie.
It's arguably the worst in Blade Trinity.
Yes, Jimmy. Disney and Warner Brothers are making nice with each other, just in time for Warner's to be bought by one of Disney's current biggest rivals at the time of recording.
Yeah.
Trust me. Turns out the reason why Marvel and DC haven't had a crossovers in a while is because of Dan DiDio.
Yeah.
Yes, that too.
How's it always that it's just one guy?
I'm more baffled by the fact that, like, if you don't like so many things about the industry you're working on, what are you even doing there?
Because no one else would hire him. The Adi Shankar route.
It's kind of like the same with Bobby Kotick leading Activision. It's like, if you don't like that aspect of the industry and you just care about the money aspect, do something else, like establish an oil baron, cartel or some shit.
Well, again, it's like he's established his fixture where he's making money and he wants to keep it, while making boneheaded decisions to show everyone that he's the one who knows what's what and all that. But yeah, no, I'll just say this, DC really only got better after they finally ousted Dan DiDio in, I think it was 2015, was it? Especially because I think at the time Dan DiDio was trying to do this massive reboot, which would have replaced a lot of the iconic characters with new XPs of them, and apparently no one at DC really liked that idea, so out he went.
Alright, this is the big, Jigsaw just wants to play a game with you. No, this is the moment of, if I recall correctly, that is supposed to be the most dramatic one, which, unfortunately, sad to say, the sequels will completely ignore or retcon.
Whistler. He's gone
shit.
forever. He's absolutely gone now and won't be brought back in a sequel only to get killed again.
It depends how busy Chris Christopherson is with his concerts.
I would say that I kind of like the touch that Frost has left an entire cassette tape to for the standard villain. Oh, I'm holding hostage your beloved one. You need to do what I say, but Blade did not even bother to play that.
That's the thing. He didn't kill Whistler, but he did bite him, essentially, which you know what that means.
Okay, let me check if La Magra actually has some roots in the actual comic. I don't think so.
Blade, it's you. You're the key to all this.
Yeah, no, it's just an entity created for this movie. But it's worth noting that in one alternate continuity, Earth 4222, yes, really, um, was meant in it is a reference to the events of this movie just as an alternate continuity during a specific event, if I recall correctly, called Darkhold, which had a Blade
Interesting.
tie-in.
I forget if it's been mentioned if Blade is potentially coming back for Doomsday. I wouldn't be surprised because it sounds like what the MCU has planned is for basically Secret Wars to more or less be Crisis on Infinite Earths and merge everything.
Either merge or do just the Royal Rumble stuff and erase these particular timelines so that they like keep the characters that they want to hang around in the MCU timeline and don't create that much confusion with the other viewers. Again, though, like I said, after what happened to Wesley Snipes in recent years and the one really, really not appropriate joke that they gave him in Deadpool and Wolverine, I don't know if we're actually having him coming back.
I mean,
if they ever come back only for that other Blade for that Blade movie to be shelved, I'm gonna be pissed.
It's like, and look, maybe I'm not the most up to date with whatever controversies Wesley Snipes may have had since 2024, apparently. Like, again, I know he's had issues. I like him as Blade and whatnot. And again, it is hilarious how well that joke has stuck, but I will say this. I do find it frustrating that we can't get a new Blade movie because, again, to say it to whatever ultra super smart directors are having trouble with Blade, it's not hard. Get a cool black guy. Put him in a trench coat and shades. Have him do a mixture of the Matrix and Devil May Cry moves while cracking one-liners. Boom. There's your Blade movie. Throw in some vampires and whatnot. But no, apparently whoever is working on it in the MCU wants it to be like this, I guess, a much more dramatic and complex story. And
look,
no,
just make it John Wick with vampires. Easy as that.
Yeah. And it's a shame because the actor that they had lined up to play Blade, Marshall Ali, is great.
Shoot, he wanted to be Blade because Kevin Feige was like, what world do you want, Blade?
Makes sense, after they killed him off early as Cottonmouth anyway.
Again, considering between stuff like the post-credit scene of Eternals and the Werewolf by Night special, it was clear that Marvel Studios was trying to set up something for the Midnight Suns, but something happened in production that forced them to scrap and rebuild the entire thing from the get-go, and we don't really know what's happening currently.
Sure, that is a good point. That's technically Blade we hear at the end of Eternals, talking to, I think the character is Black Knight.
Yeah, it's Black Knight. The character played by Jon Snow.
Jon Snow.
Yeah.
I gotta say, this is a very swanky place that he's got.
Hey, live lavish and luxury.
Sometimes I wonder, for a second I had the feeling, is this Stephen Dorff's actual house?
Yeah, sure.
Real mature.
Okay. I'm guessing the idea with making Deacon Frost younger here is like Goyer mentioned, to try and demystify vampires, show us that, in a sense, they're people too. Obviously, people with a massive superiority complex, but nonetheless, there are some who definitely have chips on their shoulder, and, will have other vampires that look down on them or whatnot. I don't know. In some continuities, werewolves are apparently your natural predator, dude.
Not to mention, yes, for example, in the World of Darkness setting, werewolves are considered far, far stronger than vampires. Although, to compensate that, werewolves are an even rarer dying breed, basically.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess to his credit, he wants to stop vampire racism so that they don't just look down on who's not a pureblood. Shame that in doing that, he pretty much will bring doom and destruction to the world.
Uh-oh. Nothing blade, but isn't the door easier?
Libs, it's not as cool.
Yeah,
Remember.
I think that's the point.
I do like how Quinn's like, though, really, we should be taking this more seriously. I've seen this guy do things.
On foot.
Yes, he drives a motorcycle through the fountain. What'd I tell ya? Or a farming baby.
You just
or
know
a
that if
farming.
it was in recent years, they would have forced him to do the Akira slide.
Remind me, when did the Akira movie come into being?
Oh, it was before this. It's just I don't know if America had gotten it at this point. Let me check again everything just to be sure. Yeah, the original release was 1988. Let me check when America got it. Oh, sorry, I need to say like the meme. Akira!
Wait, that was a meme too?
The one where Tetsuo is having, migraines and he's being called out by the Esper, he's like, leave me alone!
Leave me alone, I'm busy.
In the English dub, they say the name Akira instead of Akira.
I always found it one of those weird cases where I technically get why it's called Akira, but I don't know. I feel like there could have been better names they came up with, given how, while Akira is something of a central figure, he doesn't feature that heavily in the actual project when you think about it.
Fair enough. It wasn't longer than I thought. The United States, the movie came out in Christmas Day, 1989. While the original Japan release date was July 1988. So worth noting that the first country that Jesus Christ, everything is so white. The first country that got the movie after Japan was one day after, and it was Portugal. Also West Germany for some reason. I guess it was it was the Berlin International Film Festival. My country only got it in 1991.
So it turns out Akira can technically count as a Christmas movie, Quick.
From a certain point of view.
It's funny because Robot Chicken actually did a Christmas special featuring an Akira parody, which did not involve the motorcycle slide. Because get this, Tio, robot chicken riders are apparently cultured enough to know how to reference a cure without the slide.
According to the deleted concept art for Space Jam, A New Legacy, apparently even their planned idea of, a cameo from Akira would have been just more than just referencing the slide.
Which character?
Again, well, it's more of a case of trying to reference more stuff from the movie, more plot important stuff. Although I do question why would you want in a children, movie targeted for a young audience, reference a movie like Akira, which outside of a body horror that everyone knows, does involve stuff like sex trafficking and the children being exposed to stuff that they shouldn't. So.
Need I remind you that New Legacy features Alex and his gang from A Clockwork Orange.
Also, that movie that I mentioned a couple of times where there's a nun being possessed by Satan, but I keep forgetting its title. Anyway,
wasn't it called Nun?
I don't remember. No, that is part of the Conjuring universe. So it's different.
So yeah, his mom's alive, and it was Deacon who were better.
Yeah, of course I need to tie things together. Let me check who Blade's mother is played by.
So in a sense, Blade, Deacon Frost is your stepfather.
Enjoy. Sana Lathan plays Vanessa Brooks. Let me see. Oh, this was literally her second role in her career. Well, movie-wise, she had done a bit of TV before. Oh, she was one of the... Oh, wait, I think she was the main character in Alien vs. Predator. The girl that survives at the end.
So yeah, it turns out he's thinking of trying her cure. The catch is, though, if he takes it, it will remove all of his vampire powers to lose his strength and speed.
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, now, like many a Marvel superhero, he has to grapple with the choice. Does he want to be normal, or does he want to carry on the responsibility that his great power gives him?
So much blue in this movie, I forgot.
I swear, it looks like we're in one of those post-apocalypse movies from the 90s or 80s.
So yeah, if you forgot, the scriptures of the Book of Erebus did say about the prophecy that needs to happen in this specific temple.
I'm not calling you dad. But yeah, Quinn, being an asshole, even took his shades.
Temple of Eternal Night. To quote the Joker, sheesh, Deacon, how corny can you get?
You gotta love how this is one case where vampires themselves have legends too, because it's just that old.
Yeah. Again, I keep mentioning the World of Darkness setting. Again, at least in its original form, I don't know how much it was changed in recent times, but the first vampire was, of course, the biblical Cain. The idea was that God's punishment, despite giving him a bunch of superpowers, like polymorphing, extra strength, speed, and resilience, was the ability to never sire children in the conventional way and to be doomed to see all of his heirs being consumed by their own lust for power. That is a neat idea of incorporating a punishment for him. Unfortunately, that means that Cain is the most powerful of all the vampires, and at least in the old textbook of Vampire the Masquerade and the others that included vampires, it's specifically said that if Cain is included as an encounter, you cannot win. He doesn't even have stats. You lose. No story. Alright, I do like the fake out. If you forgot, that specific essence was the stuff that the doctor had cooked, which could cause a explosive reaction to someone with tainted blood.
Mm-hmm.
So, Marvel Universe-wise, is Blade the only half-blood?
Okay, I don't think
I
so,
think there are
but
others.
I need to check. I don't think so. I know that again, like I said, like Saros, Dracula has a bunch of children, but they are considered pure blood, if I recall correctly.
Let me see. Okay, apparently we do have a few. There's apparently one called Glory Anna, Leon Bichel. Oh, right, yeah, damphyr who was associated with Hydra, go figure. Because what's better than a Nazi? A Nazi vampire.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
one that tried to bite off Captain America, but thanks to the chainmail of his costume, he survived.
And you have Nicholas Bordia, a damphyr priest who lived in Transylvania. So yes, a damphyr priest, but nonetheless a priest.
Looking at Frost's sidekick part, he looks like a discount Jason Momoa.
Oh my god.
Like I said, this is the guy that we got to play the chief of police in Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City in recent times.
So he played William Birkin?
No, the chief
of police. No, Brian Irons.
Brian Irons.
Yeah, Brian. Yeah, that's what.
Yeah, Welcome to Raccoon City surprisingly focused quite a bit on Brian Irons as a character.
That's because the remake of Resident Evil 2 expanded a bit his role.
I thought you said Brian Adams for a second.
It's weird because they expand on his role only to then just have him die as abruptly as he did in the games, which is
it's weird. To me, that movie is still weird that they decide to merge 1 and 2 instead of just. Why not just do a very loose adaptation of 2? But
here's the doctor, the colleague of our doctor, Curtis Webb, which we didn't mention, is played by Tinguini, which more recently he was in Horizon and American Saga Chapter 1, so good to know that his career went there. Oh, right, I forgot he was the minor, background character in Iron Man 2. Basically, he's been doing more television than movies.
So yeah, it turns out her colleague from before was apparently left down there to turn.
Mm-hmm.
Morbid. But yeah, there are a few. Yeah, so basically, there are a few damphyrs in Marvel and whatnot. Apparently, quite a few work for Hydra. Go figure.
Is it meant to be a Hellsing reference?
I wonder. Also, because Hydra is like the usual organization you send characters to when you want to establish how evil they are.
Well, at least in an evil sense that, you're supposed to aid them. If you're supposed to actually make them more goofy, you send them to AIM instead.
Pretty much.
I thought it was just pronounced AIM.
Both. I try to prioritize when it comes to acronym letter by letter.
Okay. So, do you actually spell MODOK's name?
Not entirely, but most of the time, yes.
Oh.
I don't know why what's about to happen was in the script. Don't know what David Goyer was thinking with this.
Comic book writer. Wait, what comic book company did he used to write for?
I believe he's done work for both Marvel and DC. I think currently he's with DC right now.
I mean, there's a joke to make about, well, he was a comic book writer in the 90s. He must have been a big fan of Chris Claremont's X-Men run, which had a lot of weird, freaky stuff in it.
Why?
Well, because don't you know, Oh, vampires are hot, so if we do incest, that'll make it hotter. David S. Goyer, probably.
Look, don't you understand, Eric? Technically, your mother died, so I'm not really your mother anymore, so it's okay.
I thought you were gonna mention Trish from Devil May Cry. It's okay. It's okay if you ship Dante and Trish, because she's not really his mom. She just looks like her.
Jesus.
No. Just stick Dante with Lady. It works a lot better there without needing to bring in Sigmund Freud. I'm pretty sure even Trish understands.
All right,
Or,
so,
the girl from DMC too.
all right, Lucia, here's how the contraption works. Poor Blade needs to be very, very painfully and very slowly exsanguinated. I'm sure there was a better way to do it.
How tragic it's done by his mother, of all people.
While, as
That's it.
showcased in the simulation, the leader of the vampire covenants needs to be disposed in a specific manner.
Oh, what? No. What are you talking about? They're just leading them to the glyphs where they'll all be given the power, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Look, Blade, I'm sure you'll understand. Mommy's doing this for what's best.
Truly.
Sure.
Doesn't even have a decency to look him in the eyes.
Just a minute. There we are.
I love how the place was in pristine conditions despite being an old-ass ruins that probably should have so much dust in it.
I always wondered, since we technically never see the exterior of these ruins, if these were something that they maybe just transported piece by piece over to New York.
Don't remember.
Wow. This implies that this was happening all day. Goddamn.
Either that or Blade is hallucinating. Which is very possible. Blood loss can basically tend to make your brain go a bit fuzzy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, sure. Arbitrary skepticism for the win. I'm sure that will keep you alive, buddy.
The irony, vampires saying, oh, that's just a superstitious fairy tale.
Okay, let me check who the lover of Deacon Blackfire, not Deacon Blackfire, sorry, got confused with DC. The lover of Deacon Frost is supposed to be played by. Okay, it's either Mercury or Raquel.
Why do I get the feeling she really wanted to act like she was in a Tarantino film for that bit?
Does that mean he needed a sacrifice now?
I don't know. If she's Mercury, she's played by Arlie Jover. Jover, because she's Spanish. Oh, this was early in her career. Yeah, she has done mostly just Spanish movie after this. Oh wait, she was in one episode of Sense8 in 2018.
Huh. Good for her, I guess.
Dude.
The future of vampires, everyone. Frat bros.
I mean, I can't believe it.
With Stephen Dorff as its leader.
Listen, considering what they discovered recently about everything that's happening, I can genuinely believe that. It's so
Jesus.
bizarre that
No, just forget about that Batman Beyond clip about the most oppressive group of us all, gamers.
Lord.
Alright, so here's what she does. There you go.
Oh, by the way, another thing we have Goyer to thank for. Originally, Marvel were not going to give Mark Wolfman and Gene Colan credit for the characters that they created, but Goyer insisted. He asked New Line Cinema, and they accepted. The representatives of Marv Wolfman said only he should get credit and not Gene Colan. Goyer insisted that both be credited, essentially, still. So, again, it sounds like Goyer, despite some weird decisions, if the writing's anything to go by, was the MVP for this
Certainly
movie.
better, mentality than what DC Comics had, where for a very, very long time tried to pretend to not, credit Bill Finger for the creation of Batman.
It's always weird that comic book companies don't like to credit who created their characters.
I think it has something
I
to do
guess
with
the reason why
money.
Goyer was we have to credit them because he's someone who works in the industry and knows yeah, no, this ain't right.
No, comic book companies have had a very, very tricky and arguably sometimes bad relationship with comic book creators. Needless to say, what happened with the makers of Superman.
Okay, I think we already mentioned in the original commentary, but I'm sorry to say, I get that the story has done literally everything in its power to justify this happening, but I'm sorry, I cannot take seriously Stephen Dorff as this criminal mastermind who has basically engineered his way up until this point to ascend to godhood. He really doesn't have the look for it.
It is, well, again, like we mentioned, it's frankly better than what they were initially going to do, and ergo have him turn into a CGI monstrosity, wherein it turns out his plan did not exactly go accordingly.
I've seen the test footage. That looks terrible.
Wait, the test footage is out there?
It floats around, yes.
I might have to see that.
What the fuck are these cuts? Jesus. Plop. Ooh, I love his face. One blade is it's the juxtaposition. It's the O face versus the other O face.
Because he's a half vampire, can he technically turn someone into a vampire?
No, I don't think so.
Hey, what are you doing out? I thought you were grounded.
Let's just say I decided to call it off early, mother.
Yeah, it's fake as shit, Stephen, I know. Here we go. Cue the Marvel scream from Home Alone 2. Home Alone 2.
You know, it would be funny if the ritual failed because Mercury killed one of the guys early.
I love that the doctor lost so much blood, and
yet she's
still going.
Maybe it's part of that vampire bite in her.
Yeah, sure, let's go with that. Yeah, these quick cuts are just... no.
This is definitely a time where people were more okay with these cuts, because I feel like these days, cuts like these would definitely not fly.
The way they pull those faces so they're getting zapped.
Eric, I'm your mother. I know I made out with you, maybe traumatized you, and literally poked your wrist to blood, but come on, it's me.
I mean, you literally said that, your mother died.
Yeah, Mom, I think it's time I move out.
Oh god,
I love it.
CGI.
Their skeletons literally get spooked out of their bodies like a Looney Tunes cartoon. Like angels of death. That's good CGI.
Ah, Jesus. I also tried to run a bit of a test, not with this movie, but another one that had these kind of, flashy effects for the climax by watching it, quote unquote, the way it was intended on a TV and on a more distance. Because right now, for example, I'm watching Round now relatively close to the monitor of my PC, and I can tell that it's a bit more bearable. Maybe on the big screen it was more obnoxious, I can tell, but on a TV and standing on your couch, I can tell that that particular flashing probably is, a bit more digestible to look. So it might have been a case where other movies just did it without the hindsight that people will watch it on a more big screen and closer to that. I don't know, at least it's a speculation.
Honey, weren't you supposed to turn into a giant CGI blob?
No, that would have been stupid, and that would have meant that my plans failed, and I'm too cool to fail. Yeah, nope.
Bye. I love that after he spent so much time on the movie surviving all this shit, he gets one hit killed before the climax starts properly.
But hey,
it's poetic.
But hey, it let Blade get his sunglasses back in the coolest way ever. And in the end, you are all sacrifices to the altar of aura farming. So, just wondering, since they were talking about the others getting to be gods too, would they have to get like 12 pure bloods for every time they wanted to do that? Or
I've had to
would
guess
Frost
maybe
just a little shove.
I think maybe Frost would have, touched them and imbued them with his power. Possibly that. Remember, the idea is basically that La Magra is using him as a conduit by fusing all the Vampire Covenant leaders into one being.
The original cut of him turning into a CGI monstrosity sounds so Resident Evil-esque, where the bad guy talks about how they'll be perfect. Then after an injection turns into a weird monstrosity, which makes you wonder how they would even function in life, assuming that they won.
Get shoveled.
Yeah. Yes, attack him with sticks! It's his one weakness!
Bonk.
Oh crap, it's actually ours! I got a shotgun.
Well, it's not working very effectively, I will say that.
This Resident Evil boss fight's weird.
They are. Very much so. Again. Oops.
Chekhov's gun.
Done in by garlic water. Guys, you actually have to hit someone with those kicks,
Don't worry. I get the idea the director will say, "Don't worry, we will fix that in post," and they did. They never did.
No. It's a thing where they use to catch him off guard. It's like, gotta get you now.
Oh, so it's like.
I don't think Snipes is Isn't Snipes a trained martial artist?
I think so. It's like that excuse that was said about that weird moment in Star Wars Episode 3 where Anakin and Obi-Wan are just rotating their lightsaber around.
Yeah, because they know each other's fight tactics, so it was just to catch them off guard to see if who would falter first.
So yeah, our rewritten climax is a sword fight between Blade and Deacon Frost.
Which is definitely a better idea,
than CGI monstrosity, but I'm sorry, I still cannot take Stephen Dorff as the main bad guy.
I really do wonder if it was a case for, okay, let's get the most punk-looking dude, basically, to show up this more modern age of vampire, which, again, I don't...
Just to mention, in the comic, Deacon Frost looks more like a bit like Christopher Lee. And again, it showcases even in stuff like Star Wars Episodes 2, they could have, make it work for him to perform a sword fight. That would have been so cool. Instead, we get, again, Frat Boy. I guess he's now Majin Buu. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, me too, Blade. Me too.
Is that what Snipes was reacting to when he saw the original version?
And even in this version, the CGI still looks bad.
But again, imagine that, but a giant. Well, Okay, to anyone who's seen that test footage, what was the monster he turned into originally supposed to look like?
A blob.
Yeah,
It's a giant red blob monster.
pretty much. La Magra is a god of blood and everything, so it would have been just, an amalgamation.
So is this as bad as when they tried to make Galactus a cloud?
Pretty much.
Jesus. I don't get what is with some movies that go, hey, you know this villain? Oh, they look too silly, so let's make them something that should be inanimate,
Again,
basically.
for Rise of the Silver Surfer, I think the idea behind it was that they thought that Galactus was supposed to be this eldritch being, incomprehensible, and as a result, they wanted him to have the mystique, I'm not pun intended, of it, being the selling factor of it. But I'm sorry, it really is just, part of the silliness of it, It's similar to when Linkara discussed on how Galactus was ended in the Ultimate Universe, aka when it was just a bunch of nanite, swarm.
Yeah, one thing that's kind of
Nanites,
funny,
really?
Yeah. There was even
I
one
think that's
point
thing-
when it was even one point where that version of Galactus fused with the 616 version.
Yeah, apparently that line was added a bit later on.
But God, it's such a cool line.
Yeah, I was just gonna say. Apparently, another reason that they changed the ending was because apparently audiences found Dwarf a blob monster hard to relate to.
So I'm curious, was this the monster he was supposed to turn into for pretty much the whole fight?
Even worse looking, believe it or not.
Yeah. Here is
It looked worse than that. Oh my god.
Well, remember, Jova, only 1 year after 1997 Spawn. Like, are you even surprised? New Line Cinema
Jova, you know the final boss of DMC3 when Arkham turns into that blob monster-ish, like? Thing?
Yes.
Basically that.
You know, the thing is, yes, this came after Spawn, so you'd think they would have remembered, oh right, Spawn failed financially. Maybe we shouldn't repeat that.
Hollywood learning their lessons.
No, it's also a case, but again, New Line Cinema was always very confident about these special effects. So even when they fucked up, they were like, no, this was still the right idea for us. We need to, just improve on that.
Okay, if I'm being fair, if I recall correctly, back in the day, I think effects like that were considered good looking for the time. Like, obviously, we're looking at this with the mentality of the 2020s.
Even if I saw this at the time it was released, I would have been 7 years old, so I wouldn't have the capacity to judge properly things.
From what I can recall, I don't think CGI was really critiqued as much until like the 2010s.
Okay.
I think that's when people were starting to get a little.
The closest
stiff of
example I can
CGI.
give is that we saw recently. I saw Dinosaur when he came out, and I thought it was okay at the time. So
Oh, yeah. I definitely recall people like the
Moscow.
visuals of that one.
yeah, this is basically the setup for the sequel that is not really gonna be followed to an extent. The Blade 2 wanted to follow more directly the scene that we're getting this to close the movie, but unfortunately, change of plans happened.
Isn't it funny? No, sorry. We can't bother with doing a Morbius follow-up. Instead, let's do this. We'll follow up on this, then in the sequel. Yeah, about that. I think he mentions he handled this off screen in two, basically.
Say Pujolsta.
Yeah, I was just waiting for the right moment.
Stop our farming Blade. I know it's a challenge level impossible.
Wait, it's not the Soviet Union anymore.
Despite what... Oh, and that's the end.
It's like that gag from The Simpsons where the Russian representative presses the switch and the small etiquette it turns from Russia to Soviet Union and Lenin's corpse rises from the grave.
Of course.
So yeah, that was Blade. I forget if there's any after credits.
No, I don't think there is.
This was not custom at the time. So final thoughts again, Libs.
Yeah, I enjoy this movie overall, warts and all. Warts being the bad CGI and a couple of bits of questionable dialogue. But I think, considering the time that comic book movies were in at this point, it kind of needed a film like this. Something that, it was serious, but it isn't afraid to be at least a little bit funny. And hey, it's a better representation for the black superheroes than what they got the year before.
Yeah. Both Spawn and Steel.
Again,
Honestly,
Meteor Man.
I don't know which one is worse.
I recall Meteor Man being good. Blank Man.
I've seen a review of Meteor Man, actually. It looks bizarre.
Yeah.
It is bizarre, but I honestly do think it's good for the most
With
part.
the whole,
we'll watch it one day.
Especially with that weird superpower of you're able to remember a whole book, but it only lasts 30 seconds. Yeah, but overall, I think this was solid. This one's actually my favorite of the three.
Which is saying a lot.
Because I think of the three, I think it's the best put together, dodgy CGI aside.
Mm-hmm.
And look forward to revisiting at least the next film. Not so much Trinity, but digress.
We'll get there, I guess.
Yeah.
All right. That's...
Yeah, this is pretty good. It's probably the best of the trilogy. Actually, it is. Casting's great, action's good. It's definitely 90s as hell, but you know what? It knew what it was and embraced it. Would be nice if we got Blade in the modern age.
Yes, again, it's not hard to make a Blade movie. Please.
Yes, one can hope. Go on, Dad.
Anything else, Dad?
No, I'm good. Go on.
I guess I'll go next. Yeah, I'll go next. This was, again, okay. Definitely stood the test of time more than a lot of superhero movies raised on the time, even the ones that were not complete, trash fires. I still think that I still argue that there are a couple of dodgy stuff even outside of the CGI. Like I said, I cannot for the life of me take seriously Stephen Dorff as the villain, particularly knowing about how Deacon Frost was in the original comic book. They got it right with the idea that he's deeply connected to Blade, particularly his revised origin story, but no, the idea of the frat boy, taking over the old vampire cabal is an interesting idea on paper. The amalgamation of things just does not make it gel well, in my opinion. And this is not counting also, the original concept where the motherfucker had to turn into, that CGI monstrosity we talked about. Seriously, the climax of this is still a bit dodgy on its own right, but believe me, it could have been so much worse. This is one of those things, one of those situations where test screenings actually did save a movie from being worse than it actually was at the end. A lot of things this has aged much better than I remember. Maybe I don't remember what my opinion was in the original commentary, but let me put it this way. Better things came after this, and I am confident that, assuming it ever gets released, whatever Marvel is doing with Mahershala Ali probably will be a bit better. At least that's my speculation. We'll see, obviously, how that will turn out.
I'm curious, would you say that Blade 2 is actually your favorite of the trilogy?
No. Because that one retcons a couple of things. Still has a pretty boy as the villain in the form of Luke Goss instead of Stephen Dorff. It forgets the Doctor character in this movie. She's just gone after this movie, And no, it just introduced also a bunch of new rules that don't really make sense by the end of it. And Blade Trinity fucks things over. So I have to agree with Will that this is probably the more well-constructed movie out of all the three of them. So there is that. All right.
It's because they wanted to raise the stakes.
Yeah. All right. I guess it's pretty much it from me. Jova.
I'm gonna say I really did enjoy this movie. Has it aged visually in some cases? Obviously, yes. I know you have some rare cases like Titanic, Star Wars, or Lord of the Rings that magically had effects just that good that they don't even really look that fake, or stuff like Jurassic Park. But I get it. This was a movie that didn't have the most faith put into it. Apparently, Wesley Snipes had to finance a good chunk of this movie. I do think it works, essentially. It gets... Okay, maybe some of it wasn't taken clearly from the comics, but it was one of those cases where the movie ended up being so influential that the comics, for better or worse, took some inspiration from it. I don't think that they changed Deacon Frost into a pretty boy, thank God, but like I mentioned, it definitely influenced the perception of Blade, essentially, and the comics, if I recall correctly, would follow suit to an extent as well. But yeah, no, I'd say this is one that deserved it. I feel like Wesley Snipes gave a very good, interesting bookmark on the character. The one-liners, the look, the focus on the cool and everything. This movie has a lot of drama in it, but I like that it doesn't lose itself to the usual dramatic BS and whatnot. Like, it remembers first and foremost, it's supposed to be action-toting, so it never loses too much focus, essentially. The pace is, I'd say, overall fine enough, essentially. Now, some of the editing, I do wonder if this is mainly a thing from the late 90s and early 2000s, which would culminate in the god-awful basketball scene in Catwoman. Jesus Christ.
I think the scene in the jewelry robbery, the robbery in the jewel store, is actually worse.
Fair point. Like, basically, though, I feel like that kind of... I mean, not to say it went away, since every now and then again we do see movies like that, but I feel like it truly culminated with the Catwoman movie, and I think finally started to subside when people realized that, you know, showing scenes flashing at like 1 million per minute isn't always the most compelling for viewers. And, oh, that's not to say anything about the flashing either. But yeah, no, overall, I like that this movie focuses on being fun. Like, yeah, like, it's serious enough that you can take it mostly seriously and whatnot, but it also remembers it's a comic book movie, so it lets there be some amount of levity and whatnot. Maybe they overdo it in some cases, like, I'll admit, I'm not the most familiar with Deacon Frost as a comic book character, so that might be why I was a bit more okay with Stephen Dorff's take on it. Again, I'm aware that Deacon Frost is meant to be more serious. There are some times where I'm okay with an adaptation deviating from a character because, hey, it's a different universe and whatnot. Mind you, like I said, like many things, this requires nuance. I'm a bit more okay with Deacon Frost maybe having a bit more of a comedic tone to it because he's not as prominent a character from the comics compared to, say, something like what they try to do with Dr. Kafka in Amazing Spider-Man 2, where, no, minor or side character, she has been prominent in the Spidey series for a while and whatnot, so bastardizing her character the way that movie did is an absolute no-no in my take.
Don't worry, Joe, they actually bothered to kill her at the start of the Superior Spider-Man run anyway.
Don't worry, they cloned her and brought her back.
Yeah,
I'm not kidding, actually. There was
Why is it always cloning with this damn
Especially
IP?
with Spider-Man.
Yeah, did I tell you that we now have a third Clone Saga? One where it turned out Ben Reilly was the Jackal for that one, before becoming Chasm.
I'm
leaving. Being a Spider-Man fan is, it's an endurance test, let's just say. But yeah, no, like, I feel like this movie has just the right mix of stuff here and there. I'll need to rewatch Blade 2 to see if I like that better or worse than this one. I just still think Blade 2 is a good movie in and of itself as well. Though the continuity issues Tio mentioned do hold in some regards, but damn, it was Guillermo del Toro at the wheel, and he really showcases it, essentially. Also, they got a Norman Reedus before he became super big, but again, I digress. Blade is what it is, a fun, romping comic book movie that was a good step for black actors, and was an even larger step in getting Marvel movies to not only get on the map, but actually think, you know what? Maybe Marvel superheroes are worth the time and effort, which again would lead to stuff like the Raimi Spider-Man movies, the X-Men movies, the not as great, but hey, they got 2 movies, Fantastic Four, essentially.
Don't forget Hulk 2003.
Les Angley's, I'm gonna say, efforts with that movie. He was certainly exerting something
Also
with that.
Daredevil and Elektra.
Which, hey, I like Daredevil. It's been forever since I even saw a snippet of Elektra, but not so much good stuff. But of course, we know the big one it culminated with the MCU with Iron Man. So, again, this movie has earned its mark on history, and I believe will continue to do so. That being said, still do want a new Blade movie, Marvel. Please send help.
Alright, see
Look, if you need a writer, I know someone.
Yeah, us.
Alright, to see you for when we ever tackle the Generations of Blade 2. So, yeah.
See you then.